No flaws by RedRix thus. Swish. Fwam. Bash. I think the ambient noise speaks well enough for itself. In short, Tortur Kof training Benimaru, Xian, Soe, Zijin and Apito. Well, I am training Zijin and Apito because after receiving names from me they straight up evolved into their humanoid forms. I had to deal with Veldora whining about stealing his students, but it is safe to say, Veldora was ignored. Training them along with Milim has become a regular part of my routine. The only person who can kinda put up a fight is Hakuro, all thanks to the arts and techniques he learned over the years. Since compared to them our powers were completely ridiculous, skills practically cheating and stamina inexhaustible. So it's a pretty good training session every day for them. Though I heal them completely afterwards. Anyways, Benimaru and Xian has reached the million class, EP 1 million plus. Zijin, Ranga and Soe had reached above the Demon Lord seed level, EP 600,000 to 750,000. Geld and Gabiru also joined us sometimes and have also reached Demon Lord seed level, but they are still somewhat weaker than the others. Makes sense, they work most of the time in the construction and research respectively, EP 400,000 plus. Apito and Hakuro have reached the Sub-Demon Lord level, EP 250,000 plus. In terms of the actual battle prowess, Benimaru, Xian, Zijin, and Soe would be able to beat the pseudo-awakened Clayman. Ranga's control over magicules also increases by leaps and bounds. He would also be able to defeat the pre-awakened Clayman. Geld and Gabiru will be able to at least fight Frey and Carolon on equal footing. I can't say if they will be able to defeat them or not because I don't know about their complete fighting capabilities. Apito would be able to fight Albus on equal footing according to my analysis. Shuna had also gained another unique skill called Analyst, which drained her energy reserves to a B+ level for some time. I also taught her Ultimate Secret of Faith and Grace, along with teaching her the extra skill, Holy Demonic Reversal, which in all honesty is a complete cheat. Diablo and Shuna also tried some experiments with it or something like that. I am not sure about the details though. Better not question about that kind of stuff. 20 more ogres from Benimaru's village evolved into fair onas after intensive training from Hakuro, ranking a slightly under Special A. The 20 now evolved onas were made the captains of 6-man platoons patrolling around the town or the forest. Out of the 230 surviving ogres, 120 had volunteered for this and the rest were also helping around town. Some of them became Kurobi's or Shuna's apprentices, some were helping in the production departments, some were helping in the construction. The kids joined the educational facilities. Educational workshops were put up regularly every week around the town and the people were enthusiastically participating in them, both in holding them and attending them. We were going to do all our assigned work after finishing when a messenger ran up to us and said that Gobuta had brought along a group of humans. 3 of them were Ellen, Kabul and Guido, but the rest were visiting Tempest for the first time, and that one of them had also requested a meeting with me. I obviously had known who they were, so I quickly went to the meeting hall in which they were waiting. After the messenger finished his report, I turned into my slime form as I was carried by Xian to the meeting hall along with Shuna and Diablo joining us on the way. Once we arrived at the meeting room, we were briefed about Gobuta's meeting with them, or what were they here for, along with introductions. And a few minutes into the meeting, Yam nearly got his skull cracked by an enraged Xian, but a few shakes of healing potion, and he woke right back up. To sum up Fuse's motives in his own words, the very idea of monsters creating towns. Pardon me. I can understand demi-humans building settlements well enough, but a town where multiple races live together. I've never heard of such a thing. I have a habit of not fully believing something unless I witness it with my own eyes, you see. And if this whole story was true, I wanted to figure out how we would interact with it, and how much. The reports I received told me this land wasn't a threat. But I thought ascertaining for myself would be the best move. So that's what brings me here. I was hoping you'll permit me to stay a while so I can survey the entirety of your operations. And I gave him permission for that almost immediately. Yom's motives, meanwhile, were a bit more complex, so after some explanations and discussions it was once again decided that Yom would be the one being portrayed as the champion who defeated the Orc Lord with the help of a completely harmless slime who would absolutely not be able to wipe out every single living creature if it so wanted, in a matter of minutes. And now Fuse was with me, too. After a few weeks of torture cough training with Hakuro, Yom and his crew left the town with an air of brave, battle-proven warriors. more than worthy of accompanying a champion. Things were starting to calm down again, and I wanted to have some highways we could leverage to improve our trading activity. I was prepared to leave that issue alone if we were seen as the enemy, but if we were building diplomatic relations with other countries, we needed some real roads, fast. And since I ran things in the forest, it was up to us, I felt, to do all the construction work. I figured now was a good time to plead my case to Fuse about this, even if it sounded a tad patronizing, and have him do his job for me. It had the intended effect. Fuse looked honestly touched. Sir Rimuru, you would really do all that for us? In that case, we'll do our best to provide any kind of support you need. It's just too easy. Cobble and his friends were back by the time I had finished cajoling Fuse. Milim came running up to me, a big smile on her face while she boasted about the monster hunting she did with the trio in the forest. As I was kind of praising her on this, I felt the presence of Treya, a dryad and Trainee's younger sister. Looks like it's time for Charybdis, but first we still needed to hold a meeting about that topic. After our discussions were nearly finished, Fuse finally spoke. You aren't going to run? He finally asked, clearly worried for all of us. What would running accomplish? I'm the strongest dude in this nation, and I am pretty sure that Benimaru would be able to burn that flying fish to ashes. Plus, since I am the strongest in the alliance, nobody's running as long as I don't lose. Though no one else would be able to beat a threat that can defeat me. I thought about saying that, but I found it a little too embarrassing. Sir Rimuru, are you sure about that? Because Charybdis is a being on par with the demon lords. Yea, I am 100% certain that my subordinates alone would be able to take out that thing all alone. Either way, if there's absolutely no chance of winning, then sure, I'll run away and think up another plan. If not, though, then it's important that I go right in front of our foe and gauge how strong he is with my own eyes, isn't it? But for that flying fish, my subordinates are more than strong enough to take it head on. Ah. That's what being a leader of monsters means, I suppose. Yeah, well, this isn't the kind of nation that would crumble after losing its king anyway. Still, it strikes me, Sir Rimuru, that you think quite a bit like we humans do. You don't seem like a monster at all. Plus, it's just so strange, having a slime be the most powerful being in the realm. Sorry to burst your bubble, even though I look like I am a slime, I am not a slime. Just someone who is able to transform into a slime because it's honestly the most comfortable form to be in. Fuse looked flabbergasted upon my clarification. You might find it hard to believe it, but I used to be a human being once and an otherworlder. On top of that, I and Shizu belonged even to the same homeland. While talking, I used my universal shapeshift skill to transform into a human. What on? Fuse's eyes lit up as Cabal's crew audibly yelped in surprise. Looking at you, you are kind of like a more beautiful version of Shizu, Ellen timidly said. Yeah. I wasn't really hiding it or anything, but I didn't take this form around you guys because I didn't want you to get the wrong idea. Ellen's right, I inherited this form from Shizu. Inherited? Yeah. When I ate her. They retained their cool as they waited for me to continue. They had chosen to believe in me, luckily enough. Shizu and I came from the same country. When she died, she asked me to take over her mission. And as proof, I also have this. As I said that, I put that mask that Shizu gave me onto the table. Can you tell us what happened? Fuse asked. There was not a trace of doubt in his voice. So I spent the next few minutes describing Shizu's final moments, as well as the circumstances behind my death and rebirth. I obviously left out the time travel part out for now at least. I am going to remove the chains that bind her down so that she can rest peacefully. I promised her as much. I'm going to free up all the emotions that are binding her heart down. Even though I have met the guy and know that these things happened because of his complete lack of interactions with her, I still want to punch him in the face, a soft yet very deadly one at that. Wow. I always knew I could believe in you, Rimuru. Ellen flashed me a friendly smile. As for the other three men. Leon? Huh? You gotta be kidding me, you know a demon lord too? Man, I don't even know what to say about you knowing Leon. Well, I also know a few other demon lords such as Milim, Dino, Ramirez, Leon and Guy Crimson. Wait, how do you even know all these demon lords? The trio shouted in unison. Wait, Sir Rimuru, does that mean that the person named Milim staying in this town is actually the demon lord Milim? Fuse asked, almost completely pale after hearing my clarification. Yes, she is the actual demon lord Milim Nava, thud. Oh no, he passed out, Ellen commented. I don't blame him, I was also about to pass out. Guess we would need to treat Fuse before the battle. Rimuru, POV, Sir Rimuru, we have an emergency. Several hundred winged horses are headed for the direction of town. Soe sent me a cold, to-the-point message via thought communication. Shion, it's an emergency. I'll call for Benimaru, Diablo and Hakuro, so get Rigard to alert the townspeople for me. Right. She lowered me down, then briskly ran off. I ran down the situation with the Onas, then turned my attention to the sky, turning my sense all the way up. It let me detect something coming from the Dwarven kingdom. A force of around 500 mounted, flying knights. Slightly higher than rank A. Shion came back with Shuna, with Benimaru, Diablo and Hakuro arriving simultaneously. Soe had somehow appeared behind me, too. Your orders, Sir Rimuru? My orders? Well, I kinda have idea on who they are and what they want, so I would like to avoid fighting and talk things out with them. Yes, sir. They said in unison. If they are hostile, then we just have to blow them away. Shion optimistically shouted, and Diablo also complimented on this. Well, what happens, happens. If this turns into a fight, our first priority is evacuating our residents. We'll buy the time to make that happen, I said. You got it. And indeed, this could be an easy win once we're in the thick of it. I'll handle the magical support, heh. My longsword is seeking blood. Kufufufu. I am only here to serve you, Lord Rimuru. Good to see the usual gang was in on it. Wait a second. I heard someone mutter in the group. Turning toward the voice, I saw Kaijin lost in thought. What is it, Kaijin? Well, if these are flying knights, I've heard rumors about a top-secret force under the direct control of the Dwarven King. Just rumors, but... Oh, those are not just rumors, they are true, and that same force is currently heading this way. Hearing this, Kaijin grimaced. The winged horses they fly are normally C-ranked magical beasts. Dwargen's been breeding them for their flight skills. You won't find too many A-ones in nature. I guess the rumors were true, huh? What Kaijin said seemed to make sense. Whatever could upgrade those creatures so dramatically must have been kept under tight secrecy. Even an ex-officer would have only heard half-told rumors. King Gazel almost never leaves the royal palace these days, but he was lauded as a hero in his glory years. If he thought it necessary, it wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility for him to personally lead a force like this, Kaijin commented. Hearing this, I remembered something. Hey, Rigard, can I ask you a question? Yes, my lord? I told Kabul and his party to spread some rumors around their fellow adventurers, but did we ever tell them that it's over? Ah. Oh, man, I forgot. Better send a message to him. I apologize for this oversight, Sir Rimuru. It wasn't just Rigard's fault. I forgot, too, so we were even, pretty much. A herd of winged horses was flying above town. They took sidelong glances at us as we watched them, looping around the city airspace a few times before landing in an open field just beyond its borders. We had some open space in town, too. The areas where we planned to build most of our central facilities, but I suppose they didn't immediately touch down in the city out of politeness. Leaving the evacuation efforts to Hakuro, Kurobe, and Gobta, I headed out of town to greet them. Accompanying me was Rigard, who insisted that negotiations with the outside world were in his jurisdiction. Obviously, Kaijin and the three dwarves were with me, too. The knights were lined up in neat rows in the field beyond the city. In front was one whose force of presence dominated over all of them. He was flanked by 4 bodyguards, each obviously several times stronger than the rest of the force. If you ever bumped into these guys on the road, running was your best bet at survival, for sure. Well, Your Majesty. It has been a long time, and quite an impressive showing, as well. May I ask what brings you here today? Kaijin stepped forward and took a knee before Gazel. A pleasure to see you again, Kaijin. And you as well, Slime. Do you remember me? In a flash, Benimaru's smile vanished and he had a steady hand on his sword, apparently not a fan of the king calling me just Slime. Soe, on the other hand, kept it supremely cool. The faint smile on his face told us all how he felt. He was pissed. He normally had no expression at all, but get him mad, and he'd smile back at you. Diablo just stood behind me with his ominous smile plastered in his face. Creepy. It was pretty funny how the only way to make Diablo smile was to basically bait him into killing you. Meanwhile, the aura I felt from Shuna and Xian was nothing to sniff at. Kaijin, himself, was deeply disturbed by the king's greeting. My liege?" He stammered, eyes ready to pop out of their sockets. "Ha ha ha ha." The king boomed. "I see your head is unbending as always, Kaijin. Can you not see? I have come here strictly as a private citizen. At least, on paper. Otherwise, I hardly would be allowed out of my own bedchamber." Kaijin, still flustered, exchanged looks with his king and me. Realizing that nobody on the scene had any further comment, he took that to mean Gazel was telling the truth. It was hard for him to swallow. I took that moment to introduce myself. Right. Well, let me introduce myself first. My name is Rimuru. You're right in a way about me at least looking like a slime, but I am not really a slime, just someone who looks like a slime because I can morph into one because it's comfortable, and I'd prefer if you didn't call me that. I mean, I'm kind of the leader of the Great Forest of Jura Alliance, so you could say things have changed a bit since last time. I took this moment to turn into my human shape. This is probably easier for you to talk to. AN looks something like this right now. The pic is not owned by me. Hearing this introduction, I am sure that at least some of the knight's sweat dropped, and Benimaru, Shuna, Xian, Soe, the dwarves and the hobgob looked surprised but didn't ask anything. It transformed? A magic born, and such a high level one. I sense magical force but no casting of magic itself. A skill-based status transformation, I would say. I sense no sudden burst of magicules, so it is likely as it said, simply a change of appearance, not of nature. But this could change its method of battle. At the least, being able to wield equipment like our own could boost its own offensive and defensive powers. Sounds like trouble. I haven't seen a rare variant like this in quite a while, and the monsters behind it are rather strange in themselves. Said Granny Jane. Those, I can identify. They're Onas, a race practically worshipped as local gods rivaling Subdemon Lord class. The one directly behind him is an archdemon, at least an old one at that. They are? That's the evolved form of an ogre, is it not? Should we not dispatch them before they grow too strong to handle? And old demon too? You think it'd go that smoothly? They're all Subdemon Lord level at least. We might not win if it comes to that. I hate to sound timid, but yes, best not underestimate them. The king looked on silently, but his personal companions seemed unnerved. They even guessed what Benimaru and his kin were along with Diablo. Well, you couldn't have been more wrong about his race. Comparing an archdemon to a demon god. Seriously. Silence. The king suddenly bellowed, never taking his eyes off me. Enough of this racket. This slime and I are speaking right now. Excuse me, Rimuru, I mean. I will evaluate him for myself, and I would appreciate it if all of you held your tongues in the meantime. It was a pure show of force, and it stunned them all into silence. Yeah, sorry if I scared you all. I just transformed because I thought this be more natural for you. Just like that lady said, this is the work of my skill, universal shapeshift, and this is my human form. I will be the judge of that. I would hardly believe the words of someone unless I was reasonably sure they were a friend, or foe. True enough. We would just have to land into the friendly category once more. Well, I ventured. You can doubt me all you want, but we can't really sustain a conversation that way, can we? No need to worry. Words are not what I need to judge your character. Instead, I will use my sword to divine your true nature. If you insist on such ribald boasting, calling yourself the leader of this forest, it may be about time to show you your place. If that sword of yours isn't mere decoration, I ask you to accept my request. With that, he handed the halberd he carried in his hands to an attending knight on his side. Why, your majesty, surely. What faster way to settle this than with a man-to-man duel? The king laughed. Judging by the shocked looks on the knights and Gazel's companions, their monarch was seriously looking for a fight. I had no reason to turn him down. In all honesty, I would do anything to prevent a fight, but if it comes down to a fight, I will never back down. I accept the request. And I'll make you regret calling me a boaster, I said, looking King Gazel in the eye. The crowd had already formed a ring, with us facing each other down in the middle. Regarding the rules, If you can block a single string of my attacks, you may call yourself the victor. Not that it has to be said, but you are free to attack me at any time, too. But remember, I am Gazel Dwargo, master of the sword, and my blade shall not be taken lightly. He took his weapon in hand and aimed it in front of his eyes. It held a single edge, with a bit of a curve to it, and pretty patterns were etched up and down its length. It resembled a samurai's sword but had its own unique design. Certainly, a very well-made weapon for the master of the sword to carry. Just when I was preparing to draw my own blade, a clear voice penetrated the ring, ruining the dramatic unsheathing of the one and only Genesis-class sword in the world. Allow me to watch over the match. As it did, I felt the presence of 3 more among us, hearts pure and bereft of evil. One had spoken. Trainee, a dryad I was familiar with. As always, she had a knack for appearing and disappearing whenever it suited her. The other 2 being her younger sisters. Dryads! Exclaimed Granny Jane, who tried scanning us earlier. I couldn't blame her surprise. Anyone would be alarmed at a monster teleporting in from out of nowhere. Trainee smiled as she gave both of us a quick glance. Dwarven King, you are being terribly arrogant to our forest leader. Calling Sir Rimuru a boaster tells me you are willing to make every denizen of this wood your enemy. Is this right? However, if Sir Rimuru has accepted this challenge, it is my role as his subject to allow it. I will close my eyes to it this time. But relent on your promise, and do not expect mercy from us. She was willing to accept no back talk against this. My companions nodded at one another. It was like Trainee said what they all were thinking. The dwarves, on the other hand, didn't look well at all. The loftiest presence in the forest, siding with a single force? One whispered. They are as powerful as high-level elementals, and 3 of them. Ha! Ah ha 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 ha. So, leader of the forest, was no boast, after all. I apologize for branding you a liar, Rimuru. And I think I have a vague understanding of the situation here. But I still seek to gauge your true nature. And if we have a referee for this contest, all that remains is to cross swords. Gazel seemed completely unmoved. He was indeed worthy of being called a heroic king. Yeah, you're right. We'll have a quick match, and then we can talk about what has brought you here. There was no longer a peep from our audience. Trainee, face tensed, stood between the 2 of us as we confronted each other. The match was on. Begin, came the dryad's shrill voice over the still field. And with that, Gazel and I instantly took action. The match was over in an instant. Gazel was strong in his own right, no doubt about that, but the problem is that I am the strongest. Gazel's blade was cleanly cut in 2 without any sound. Heh 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 heh. Ah ha 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 ha. You've completely defeated me, Gazel bellowed for some reason. Why yeah. So, if your weapon is destroyed, does that mean I win? It certainly does. You don't appear to be at all evil to me, he said with another bellowing laugh. This fight is over. The winner is Rimuru Tempest. With Trainee's official notice, my victory was complete. Trainee's voice was immediately followed by a chorus of cheers from the monsters assembled in the field. The dwarves, meanwhile, were baffled about the result. He broke the king's very sword. Ridiculous. It's simply not possible. And so on. Silence, Dolph shouted. Have you no shame, my fellows? How arrogant for anyone to accuse His Majesty of relenting on any foe. Are you saying you could follow his movements with your eyes, when none of us even could? He's right, Vaughn commented. Gazel did not relent. The master of the sword fully deserves his title. This was no duel to the death. It was focused squarely upon gauging each competitor's true nature. Do not forget. We are not here to create enemies. How nice of them to plead my case for me. The other dwarves scowled at this dressing down. Forgive our impropriety, they said to Gazel and me. They simply didn't want to admit that their beloved king lost. The apologies sounded sincere enough, so I accepted them. Besides, I could understand their thoughts. Well done, though, you even sliced that sword so easily. Well, I have a few millenniums of experience using different kinds of weapons, and for all that time this sword was right with me, so it has become one of the best blade, if not the best blade ever, and that was one of the reasons I was able to cut your sword so easily, I explained. Can I see your sword? Gazel asked. Yeah, you can, but there is a problem with that. What is it? Well, see it for yourself. With that I handed him my sword. As soon as he held the weapon just came crashing towards the ground. Well, this is the problem. If anyone else except me tries to wield it, it will just reject that wielder, and this exact scenario happens even without that. It's really heavy, like really heavy. Kinda like Thor's hammer, and its weight I would put it around a planet, since the Veldanava sword weight was equivalent to a star, and this is also a Genesis class sword, but it's not as strong as the Veldanava sword. That's okay and all, but can you take it back? It's crushing my hands, Gazel said, on the verge of shouting. I quickly took back the sword and gave him full potion on his wounds. Ho ho ho. Well performed, Sir Rimuru. Hakuro, who was aiding the town's evacuation, chose that moment to sidle up next to me. The women and children have been directed to safety. I left the rest to Gobta and came here, but what a sight awaited me. If I may, Gazel said, suddenly humble, are you the sword ogre? Ho. The child from way back when, is it? I hardly even recognized you. Well, forgive me for being so rude, Your Majesty. I was wondering what kind of stalwart warrior could use such moves. How splendid to see you have grown to be a better swordsman than I. It is an honor to hear such words, Sword Ogre. 300 years, is it? Since I found you as a child, lost in the forest, and began teaching you the way of the sword on a whim. A fond memory, nowadays. And now you are the Dwarven king? Talk about never knowing who you'll run into from your past. We decided to talk in more detail elsewhere. In the center of town, we had a dorm full of rooms for everyone who held central posts related to keeping things running. There was a government building of sorts next to it filled with offices and meeting halls, and we all went inside to hold a little catch-up meeting. The mission of the dwarves was to investigate the mystery team of monsters that defeated the Orc Lord, in other words, us. As they put it, they needed to see if we were friend or foe. The Dryads were known to be a kind and fair race, and the dwarves believed they would never lend a hand to anyone with evil intentions. If they liked us, then they didn't even need that duel to know we were okay. Once the dwarves gave their story, I gave ours. From the first rumblings of the Orc Lord to the Jura alliance we forged. I did mention how the Orc Lord had evolved into a full-fledged demon lord. It's all solved now anyways. Somewhere along the line, the meeting transformed into a sort of banquet. The tension between us dissipated as we spoke. It was dangerous for the Pegasus Knights to fly in the dark, so we would be hosting them tonight. We had them all kicked back in our public assembly grounds. Staying in regular contact with their home kingdom was no problem, they told me, so I thought I'd build a little amity and bust out some of the wine we were developing. Then the good times started rolling. Gazel himself is reminiscing about the old days with Hakuro. Well, you may call me Hakuro the Oni now. I have taken on the post of instructor for the citizens of this town. This comment of Hakuro's made the good king promptly request his tutelage as well. His friends had to talk him out of it. Just as the feast got into full swing, Gazel suddenly turned to me, his expression grave. Rimuru, I want to ask you something. Sure, anything you need. Do you want to forge a covenant with me? I ask you this as king? If you are the leader of this forest, that would put us in equal position, and if you've been able to hold this entire vast forest under a single government, I am sure you will be rewarded with riches and bounties that not even my kingdom can enjoy. We observed this city from the skies, and let me tell you, it is a beautiful one. That, and you have built great roads through the forest. I could only guess at the logistical and technical skills required to build them. They may yet be incomplete, but I can easily see this town becoming a vital trade center in due time. A vast new market, one that will take on great strategic importance. And when that happens, having another nation to back you would help in various ways, would it not? You sure? Because this is the same as admitting that we, this group of monsters, are a full-fledged nation. Of course. And since we may perhaps see this differently, let me say this. A covenant would be of great help to us, as well. This is no charity mission, Rimuru. We could both stand to benefit. He told me all this with a grin, then offered his terms, dead serious. These were as follows. 1. A non-aggression treaty with each other. 2. Assistance whenever one nation is endangered. 3. The building of a road to Dwargon, in exchange for their backing. 4. Guaranteed safety for dwarves in the forest of Jura. 5. Promises of technology sharing between us. There were a few other details, but those were the 5 main points. I would be glad to take this offer, I told him. Rigurd, Benimaru, Diablo, Trainee and the others had no objections, willing to let me have the final say on it. As Trainee put it, none of the Dryads disagreed with naming me leader of our alliance, and none of the monsters had any innate aversion to interacting with humans or dwarves. Let's relay this to the kingdom, the king told Henrietta, the head of Gazel's undercover team. What do you call this nation anyway? He asked, to which I acted as if I was thinking for a bit, but I already had a name in mind. Either way, I said this to get the confirmations of the others. Well, I don't think we're really at the nation point yet. I mean, there's the alliance, but that's just a bunch of different races that accepted me as their leader, is all. I don't know if everyone in the forest is ready to accept that. I knew from the start that it sounded weak. Everyone in the room shot me down. If anyone refuses to recognize you as their lord, Sheehan declared, I promise I shall slay them where they stand. Well, Benimaru added, it's a monster's natural instinct to follow the power chain, but I think it's a little different with you, Sir Rimuru, at the core of it. You know? Nobody's being forced to follow you, and I don't think you'll find anyone against it, either. He. Right now, Sir Rimuru, you hold control over approximately 3/10 of the forest. The other advanced races have decided to watch you carefully for the time being. However, the middle levels among them have already expressed interest in aligning with you, and I am sure the lower level races will come flocking to this town for protection. We are united under a so-called alliance for now, but it is an alliance based on a common will, one that I believe will birth a full nation. One with you, Sir Rimuru, at the center. Even in these circumstances, the old survival of the fittest rule held true. All right, then, I already had a name in mind, so how about the Jura Tempest Federation, or Tempest for short? Then this town shall be named Rimuru, then. Diablo commented, and the others agreed wholeheartedly with both the names. This current covenant between the armed nation of Dwargon and the Jura Tempest Federation took the form of a pact between the two nations. It would take effect after representatives from each side applied their signatures. It would then be kept in safe, magical storage and announced to the world. And so the term Jura Tempest Federation appeared in the public record for the first time. Rimuru, POV, on a flying horse, the trip from Dwargon to the capital city of Rimuru took just 1 day. The dwarves were soon off, with Gazel promising to visit again soon. And he did. This time with a droopy vesture. Well, Rimuru, the king half shouted as he dismounted. Here I am, as promised. Didn't you just leave 2 days ago? Is his kingdom really going to be all right? I couldn't help but think about that. As I silently stewed over these doubts, Kaijin came running up to me. Your Majesty, he shouted, you didn't sneak out of the castle, did you? Peeved. Can you believe it? 100-man security detail, and not one noticed me escaping. Such ignoble slackers. It's right back to hard drilling for them when I return home. Well, I mean, they can't handle someone like you, my liege. Did you want to say something, Kaijin? No, Your Majesty, nothing. So what brings you here this time, Your Majesty? Kaijin asked. Well, simple, really. You recall how I exiled you both from Dwargon based on my own personal judgment, so that's why I had to come here. And you will recall how our covenant included the sharing of technological expertise. Well, I've brought along the perfect man for the job. And here comes Vester, kidnapped by his own king. King Gazel. Kaijin sounded like he was beside himself. Should I take this to mean you're fine with letting us take every piece of Dwarven technology you have? Peeved. Let me give you this request, then. I want you to take this land we stand upon now and harness it to create technology like none seen before. You understand me? Your research should not rely on previous perspectives. You must work more freely than that, as you conceive new ideas. That is the whole reason why I have allowed the free exchange of technology between my nation and yours. Yea, I have some stuff that shouldn't even exist at this time, but it does. Better not bring that up and cause needless trouble. Hey, are you? Oops. Bet my covert force has caught up to me by now. I'll be on my way, then. Right as I was about to question him about him trying to read my mind, he skillfully diverted the topic and then he flew away. A very sudden arrival, and a very hurried exit. The man was like a living thunderstorm. Kaijin, are you sure your nation's safe with such a freewheeling man ruling it? Who can say? He's been ruling for centuries, so I imagine we'll be fine, but... Certainly, he was not so flighty when I served him in the palace. Ah, well. I'm not one to speak, I suppose. As far as uncommon visitors go, one time, while exploring in the woods, I came across an insectoid, an insect-type monster. That was near death. It was maybe a foot and a half tall, kind of a cross between a stag beetle and one of those big fighting ones, and I just thought it looked so cool. There was a dead blade tiger next to it, a B-ranked monster, and imagining this small creature defeating such a formidable foe was remarkable to me. There was another insectoid behind it. It had attacked me so the other one could make its escape a foot tall and looked like a garden variety wasp. Of course this was the future Zegan and Apido, so I did the obvious thing and gave them some of my slime cells and used processed magi steel to replace the missing parts of their exoskeletons. That plus a dose of healing potion fixed them right up. They seemed to get along with my flesh surprisingly well this time. I was worried that they would not be able to handle it, but Seal explained to me that they would be completely fine, albeit much stronger physically this time. I also gave them their names, with Seal adjusting the output of the energy. I was surprised to say the least that giving them names instantly formed a cocoon around them, letting them evolve into a humanoid form. Looks like it will be a while before I get my honey. Well, I put them into the tree ants' care for the time being for them to start collecting honey. At the moment, the forest's native races were most likely testing us, trying to see what this new force in Jura could do. That's why we were kind of obligated to puff out our chests a bit, so we could get everyone else to recognize us. We'll gradually roll that out, and slowly but surely, we'll make ourselves known. So in short, the city of Rimuru, in the heart of the Jura Tempest Federation, was doing a pretty roaring business. Less than master the individual Milim Nava is heading for this place. Greater than. Oh crap, I completely forgot about her arrival. In an instant, I jumped off Xian's chest and teleported outside town. The instant I teleported, the magic force changed its aerial trajectory and landed right in front of me. The nearby trees had been uprooted and blown away, and there was a crater on the ground where it landed. A powerful will hid behind her blue eyes, and her platinum pink hair was done up in a pair of pigtails. She looked around 14 or 15. But there was no telling a magic-born's age from external appearances. Before I could say anything, she arrogantly puffed out her chest and declared, "Hello, hello. I am the Demon Lord Milim Nava. You looked like someone really strong, so I wanted to come and say hi." That should absolutely not be your attitude when meeting with someone much stronger than you. Milim, POV. A few minutes before, Milim the Demon Lord had spotted the town below her. It was a pretty place with neatly organized rows of buildings, attractive trees lining the city roads. It was a town that seemed to exist in perfect harmony with nature, and protected by some sort of multi-layered barrier, and she could tell that several sub-demon lord level magic born, rated special A or higher, lived there. The biggest surprise of all, however, was that even the rank and file residents of town were at least low-level magic born people as well. Their magic potential varied, but they were all creatures with intelligence, thinking for themselves and carrying out the work assigned to them. Nothing like these people existed in the forest of Jura before this point. Seeing such a settlement appear practically overnight would normally be unthinkable. They were all working together, regardless of their differences in strength. Milim couldn't even imagine what kind of leadership skills were required to make them all follow that. It excited her like Lil had recently, and she used her truth-revealing Dragon's Eye unique skill to gauge the abilities of people around town. Amazing, she admirably thought to herself. Some of them could go toe-to-toe with the newer demon lords such as Carillion, Frey and Clayman. Unbelievably, nearly every single resident of the town was a named monster. No way. Everybody here's got names. But the most surprising thing was there were two people who were unreadable with her Dragon's Eye. One was a black-haired individual, dressed in black, and another was a platinum blue-haired individual who teleported outside the town a few seconds ago. For the first time in several centuries, Milim felt a mixture of shock and excitement well forth from her heart as she remembered that there was only one other person who was unreadable before this. A certain conversation with a redhead demon lord came into her mind. Flashback. "Guy, did you grow stronger somehow?" questioned Milim. "Yay, and it's all thanks to a certain platinum blue-haired individual and his black-haired butler." "Wait, does that mean you took someone's help?" Ramirez shouted. After all, he was the type to not take anyone's help in his matters, being the prideful person he already is. Yes, I accepted his offer, not to mention this person is far stronger than me. Wah, what? You of all people actually admitting that someone is stronger than you? It's true, if you want to believe it or not depends on you entirely. After an awkward moment to silence, Guy spoke again. Well, he's a true dragon but not a complete one and a twin of Veldanava, and if he met you Milim he would probably treat you like you were his own child. After that, Guy had a lot of questions to answer for a few days straight. End of flashback. Milim laughed a little. She was happy. Good thing I dissuaded them all from coming here. Her unique skill, Dragon's Eye, allowed her to view the truth behind whatever she saw, something that worked even through Clayman's crystal spheres. It wasn't a complete picture, but it provided enough information to pique Milim's interest. The mysterious magic-born fighting Gelmud possessed enough power to place it far beyond merely high level. Caroline and Clayman may not have spotted it, but there was no pulling the wool over her Dragon's Eye. She also had a guess about who killed Gelmud, someone who then gained Gelmud's power for their own, letting them evolve up to pretty much one step away from Demon Lord status. Wait. Maybe not. The Orc Lord would have only been able to evolve into a Demon Lord level creature. This magic-born's already far beyond that. And now she saw that, just as she figured, it was only the mystery magic-born who survived. She scanned the town from the skies, satisfied with herself. Wait, when did they even build a town like this? There were people maintaining the roads, people carrying around the chopped up wood to and fro, monsters going in and out of construction sites. They were plainly building their own city. The townspeople here are a far cry from those boring old fools. Referring to the dragon faithful. She wanted some new stimulus, something to fend off the boredom. That was the only reason she even came here in the first place. If Clayman or Caroline wanted more war power, she was willing to hand it over once she was bored. She'd tyrannize the young demon lords, watch them stew in their own juices, and once she was satisfied, she'd think up some new game to play. That was her original plan, but the mystery magic-born was much stronger than any of the demon lords had guessed. She was 100% sure that if it came down to fight she would lose. She once challenged Guy after him gaining power from a certain platinum blue-haired individual who looked exactly like the individual residing in this town. Anyways, after the fight began she was instantly knocked out. She was not able to see what was even going on and had lost. And Guy said that there is a person that can defeat him even after he gained this much power. That thought even terrified her to some extent. She knew that she was strong, really strong, but she was instantly defeated, and there is someone who could defeat the person who she lost to. And she had found him, looking exactly like the person Guy defined. Well, good afternoon. He spoke. My name is Rimuru, and I am the leader of this town. I am impressed that you recognized this person as the strongest presence here. He. That's kid stuff for someone like me. My Dragon's Eye can measure all the magical energy people try to hide from me. But I would like to ask you one question. Yay, go ahead, ask anything, he replied with a nonchalant expression. Do you know the Demon Lord Guy Crimson? And are you a true dragon? Yes, I do. In fact, I am a good friend of his, and yes, I am a Touré dragon, any your father's twin brother, my dear niece, he said as a warm smile appeared on his face. It was a real smile, not the fake ones she sees on the others. Milim, who grew up without even knowing how her parents even looked, always felt as if something inside her was incomplete while growing up. That feeling was made even more clear when she lost her one and only friend and pet dragon. But now, after meeting this person and seeing that smile, that warm smile of his, that feeling of emptiness disappeared, as it was the first time ever that anyone had ever called her family. That simple word was enough to make her break down into tears, tears of happiness.